Today on Geek Devotions, we're talking about nurture versus nature, as well as how that applies to Cruella de Vil. Hello and welcome to Geek Devotions, the show from Devoted Geeks who are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. If you don't watch past this point, we want you to know you're loved. We love you. God loves you. And that's important. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our website, where we had a really cool new article drop by our good friend Michael Manacci. He wrote us an article, and it's really interesting. Also, don't forget that you can get these sweet shirts at our merch store, which is also found on our website. Today we're talking about a interesting debate about nature versus nurture, while discussing Cruella de Vil, the movie Cruella that just came out. De Vil is her last name, but they didn't put that in the title. Don't know why, because that is her last name. So we will be getting into spoilers of the movie. Now, just in case you are not aware of this conversation that happens, there is a conversation of, if you raise a child, does nature affect them, like how they are inherently born, or is it nurture, your parents pouring into you as a child, or you pouring into your child? So that's the nature versus nurture discussion. The movie Cruella, you start out learning about a little girl named Estella, who has a bit of a chaotic side. She's a bit wild. She's a bit let me stir the pot. But she has a mom who really loves her and is really nurturing her to kind of control that chaos, not squash it. She allows her to be creative and even stands behind her when she's done some things that you're like, ooh boy. But she's trying to guide her to where she can become a functioning person in society and not just, psychopathic, because she kind of leans that way. Now, fairly quickly in the movie, Estella's mother dies. Tragically, Estella was there to see it. She runs away. She meets up with Jasper and Horace, which sounds familiar. And I gotta say, even though these kids were living on the street and pickpocketing, they were a good influence on her. They helped keep her grounded. They were there for her when she needed it. They were good friends. They might have even been her family. Now, you see it established very early on that Estella has always wanted to be a fashion designer. So when she grows up, in a quick video montage, you see that Horace has gotten her a job at a fashion store in an attempt to help her fulfill this dream. Like I said, surprisingly good influence for pickpockets. Through a series of events, Estella gets hired on by a designer named the Baroness. She's one of the top designers in London at the time. And I say events because she got a little chaotic at work. And from this point on, when she gets hired by the Baroness to work in her designer firm, yeah, that would be the word, the designing firm, you see her slowly delve into Cruella. See, when she was a little girl, her mom had told her that her chaotic side, the side of her that wanted to just cause trouble and be cruel, they called her Cruella. So the first day of school, it was actually very cute. Mom goes, okay, say goodbye to Cruella. She goes, goodbye, Cruella. I'm going to school and I don't need you. And off she goes to go into school and be a little chaotic. But you see her as she's dealing with the stresses of this environment, as she's dealing with things she's finding out because she is in this environment, that she's leaning more into Cruella. And at one point, it even becomes a persona. She decides to take down the Baroness because of some things that have happened. And she leans into that personality. She makes the choice to become Cruella. And at one point, Horace even goes, why are you being Cruella right now? It's just us. It's just your family. Why can't you go back to being Estella? And like I said, it's an interesting view into the descent of madness. I do want to say that it is fairly obvious that Estella, Cruella, had some pretty serious mental issues. So these things are things that really needed to be handled by a medical professional, but in the time frame it was set, that wasn't a thing. So she still made the choice to delve into that because we see her not giving in to that side, but she could have used some help. In 1 Corinthians 15:33, it says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." Now we get to the fun part of talking about the nurture versus nature. We see in the movie that Estella was encouraged in her creativity by her mom. She was encouraged to be creative, to express herself in a healthy manner. You could even say that she was being trained in good morals. But her nature was very chaotic, verging on psychotic, as you see later. When she purposely starts putting herself into the fashion world, into the nitpicky and the backbiting side of it, you see that her creativity is not only used for good things of making beautiful clothes, but for being cruel. Her nature came out more in that environment. As Christians, we have to be mindful of what we're taking in, who we're surrounding ourselves with, who we're talking to all the time, and even who we feel closest to. We have to be mindful of that to make sure that the people that we are closest to are people that are going to help us be righteous, to help us lean into God rather than our nature. Now, I'm not saying that Christians shouldn't be friends with non-Christians. I'm not saying that you have to not take part in anything that is in the world, because clearly through this show we watch a lot of worldly things. But it's a matter of monitoring yourself and going, how is my attitude? Who am I closest to? Are they helping me in my walk with Christ? Or are they pulling me to the side? A good example of this is a personal story that I've realized through watching this movie. We've been watching some things that were more adult in nature, not super adult, just not kiddie, not child friendly, PG-13 and up. And I realized when watching this movie at one point, Cruella says the word fart because it's a Disney movie. And it took me by surprise because I thought that there was going to be another word in that spot. And I realized that I might want to pull back from some of the things we've been watching, some of the things that have harsher language. So that is a choice that I am making to monitor what I'm watching and be more mindful of if I am watching a show that is meant for adults rather than kids or young adults, that I need to be taking in things that are more wholesome, more closer to what God would want me to see. Now, we do have a choice in this matter. In Romans 14:12, it says, "So then, each of us will give an account of himself to God." So even if you had a wonderful family and they nurtured you to be godly, to live a righteous life, and you learned all the things, it is still your choice to live it out. If you grew up in a terrible home and you learned all the wrong things and that's all you know, it's still your choice to live out a righteous life or not. That is the beautiful thing about the grace of God, is that we have the ability to choose. He won't force us to do anything yet. Eventually, it does say every knee will bow. But right now, we have the option to say no. We don't want to do that. But we also have the option to say yes. We also have the option to say, God, make me what you want me to be. Use me. Was talking with a young man yesterday, and he said that he has been thinking about legacy. And he wants to have a legacy of having clean hands and a pure heart. All the rest of it, all the accomplishments, all the other things that has happened in his life doesn't necessarily matter. But if when he at the end of his life can go, I had clean hands and a pure heart before God, he's good. and that is his choice to do so. Okay guys, that was the devotion of the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Didn't have terrible too many spoilers. Most of them were in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So you should definitely check it out if you enjoy that type of thing. It was well done. It was a good, great soundtrack. I think they probably spent most of the money on the soundtrack. It was great. Don't forget to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our website. We have a new article. We don't necessarily have anything going on right now. We are quickly approaching season 6. How crazy is that, guys? Season 6 of Geek Devotions. So Dallas and I are doing some prepping for that, getting ready. So come find us on Facebook, come find us on Instagram. Don't forget that we also have a Twitch channel where we are streaming. We're trying to stream a little more regularly, as well as Bible studies on Monday. And it is now time for the question of the week. The question of the week is, Estella had a dream of being a fashion designer from a young girl. What's something, whether it's been fulfilled or not, that you have dreamed of doing, even as a child? When I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist, and I thought that meant living in Paris and drawing and playing with clay and all kinds of things. And while I don't make my job as an artist, I do crochet a lot, and I make things with yarn, and I think that that's considered art, as long as I do it well. Even if I don't, it's still art, it's just bad art. Okay guys, all that being said, stay devoted, peace and love.